explore it for a second and put together a proof of concept and show what your thought is instead of just like shutting down just because the idea wasn't received good in the first second. Because I think that's really where we can start, doing things differently, learning things. And I think we all have something to bring to the table. So just put that foot forward and don't limit yourself based on what others think or say.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. This is a fun one because my guest today, Samuel Winderö, hopefully I didn't butcher that completely.
No, that's totally fine.
Is just changed roles in the last few weeks. So as Samuel, you have had an extensive career in marketing and building brands and innovation, leading teams and thinking of people first. So I'm really excited to dive into all of that. But I also want to talk about your new organization, Safe Side Sweden, and why you embarked on a new journey, what that looks like compared to all of your vast experience over the past 17 plus years.
That sounds super fun. And I think the most exciting thing about, wherever you are in your career, if it's a new path or an old one, it's always about the same kind of foundational values that you carry with you across as a leader, as a colleague, in anything you do. So I think whatever this conversation will land in, I think what we'll learn is hopefully how we can be authentic to ourselves and to help that be channeled through in the works we do or the people we meet. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your background a little bit. Global business, right? You've done a lot of different work with a lot of different organizations. Have you primarily stuck with specific sectors of industry or has it been variety?
I'm a little bit of a chameleon on that area and I jumped in industries. And I started out in banking, which is a very, strict industry. And I was always the guy that was a little bit on the edge of everything because I was a little bit more creative. I was more explorative and I had fun ideas that I wanted to explore. So I moved over after 8 years in banking to working at an agency. And that's where kind of I started to find my passion and how I can make a difference at work and how I can make a difference as a leader and also how I can, learn and grow in my role because it wasn't so in a box as maybe banking can be.
And what did that look like for you? How did you go from being an employee working right into leadership roles in the first place?
So I think leadership has come very naturally for me. Even in the banking job, I became a leader fairly quickly, and I went through like an extensive leadership program with like training of like self-leadership and stuff. And I think over time, I just realized that I like leadership. And when you are in a place where you can be a leader in a good way, that's where I have also excelled. Like if I got the opportunity to lead, but also where I was required to lead or where I was expected to lead, I could actually also do something to make a difference, not only with the, knowledge that I had at hand, but also in leading others and making and helping others work towards the same goal. So I think it just comes naturally. And I think leadership is key, not only for in a role or a position of a company, but you have to lead yourself every day. You have to lead your family. You have to lead the people around you. But most of all, you have to lead yourself out of bed in the morning sometimes, out on the run track sometimes, or whatever workout you do, So I think leadership is something we all need to train at in one capacity or another. Then some move that into a professional setting, which I have had the privilege to do. I learned a lot, and my latest learnings was actually from my last job that I just ended, and realizing that leadership is really something that you have to train and reinvent in yourself and in your way of thinking constantly. So that was not a wake-up call, but it was really a realization that it's not something you learn once and do. It's actually something that you need to work on, and it depends on yourself, but also the people around you and the setting you are in.
Well, and it looks to me like you've gone in and out of working for other organizations and also creating your own, being a
Yeah.
co-founder or founder of many organizations. And there's a dexterity to that not everybody appreciates, right? Sometimes people stay in just the role they want to be the worker and have the security of working for somebody else. Sometimes people are natural entrepreneurs and just want to stay in that lane. Some people are like both of us, where we do a little bit of both. But I think one thing that stood out to me is also that within your roles in other organizations, that you also were an entrepreneur. So you're able to use your creative identity and your leadership to implement new strategies, new ways of doing things to, break out of the mold a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think you're hitting it on the nail. I don't know if that's an English expression, but I think that's really like in the jobs where I've been able to be an entrepreneur when I've been employed, that's been the positions that worked best for me, where I added value, had my most fun, and where everything worked in the best possible way. And I think for me, I was working in this, very solid job at the bank. And then I moved into this more creative work, and I realized I want to be myself. I want to try it out. I want to explore. And then when the pandemic hit, and I just felt like, no, it's time to do something different. And I realized that journey that I've been going on for the last 17 years is actually what helps me every day. Like understanding how it is in dynamic companies, or understanding how it is in companies where there is no existing process or structure, and knowing how to kind of balance between those. That's been my great teaching. And then you add a layer of leadership on top of that, which is where, okay, cool, I need to navigate myself differently depending on which situation I'm in, which context I'm in. And I think that's also my greatest learning in the last couple of months with contextual leadership. How do I actually make sure that I am fulfilling the leadership of the context I'm in, and not only doing what I think is most relevant for me as a person.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to get back to the concept of authenticity. But before that, I want to explore a little bit about how you've chosen to lead teams, and you are a people first CMO director, right? And
Yeah.
so what does that mean to you? And how have you used that to transform your teams and build your teams in different organizations?
I think it's a concept that is very important to have in any role as a leader, that if you're not people first, and if you don't have the drive to set the people that you're leading in the front line of what you're doing, I think you're in a very troublesome place, and it's not going to be fun for anyone. And I think even when you say or think that you are people first, you of course fail in that, because sometimes you forget that in the mix of processes or structures or requirements from owners or whatever it may be. But I think the mentality and the kind of way you position yourself as leader should be, okay, how do I set my people first, and how do I make sure that they are having a good work experience, that they can do what they are best at and all of that. And then you have to go on that kind of roller coaster, making sure that happens. And back to what I talked about just a second ago with context, sometimes you may think you're doing that, but in the context of where you are, you may not. So you have to constantly adjust that on an individual level, on a company level, and on a cultural level when you work in global companies. So I think it is super important. And my attitude and my passion is always to enable people wherever I am. I don't want to limit people. I don't want to make people feel clustered in. I want people to feel that they have the capability and the platform to soar and become their best version. And I think that's my attitude. And then sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't. But if that's my attitude, at least, then I'm going in the right direction. And I hope that I have people around me that tell me if they feel I don't, so I can adjust my own leadership to better cater for that, because it's super important.
Yeah. Did you have a mentor that helped you learn these skills, capabilities, this outlook?
Across the last couple of years, I've had a multitude of people that are influencing my way of thinking as a leader. They come from different contexts, both in business, but also from private relationships. And I think for me, I don't have one specific mentor, but I have different people that I discuss with, that I bounce ideas with to help me navigate. Because I think sometimes calibration and context requires you to get different inputs to find kind of the middle way that works for that situation. And I have probably input to you or anyone on certain things, but in together with other people, that can be an input that actually creates value for another person. So I've had a idea of like, I want to surround myself with people that are really smart, that are smarter than me in different areas, that have different experiences to myself, so that I can be contextual, that I can be authentic in my leadership and not fall too narrow into one stream or one path that maybe makes me miss opportunities, but also miss things that I need to think of as a leader of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side, how has being a people first leader, making sure people feel seen, heard, valued for what they're bringing to the table, helped you in your roles, but also how have you seen this mentorship and this ability to be people first and people centered in the workforce help your team, past or present?
Yeah, I think in the times where I may have failed a little bit and not being as people first as I think I should be, I think you see that productivity goes down. I think you see that energy goes down. I think I see that creativity goes down. And in the times where I've actually been very people first, I think the opposite happens, where I've managed to be in the right context, acting in the right way, leading in the right way. Well, miracles have happened, not because of me, but because people have had that kind of ground space to grow and excel and feel free in that and feel, released to do what they're best at. And I think it's very evident to me. And it's a hard thing because it falls down to one thing. It's my attitude every morning when I wake up. It's my way of acting and my way of communicating and engaging that will be the outcome of the result.
Well, and as you know, in the marketing world, and what we're seeing even with advertising, with marketing, with this whole ecosystem is that we have so much technology that aids us in the tasks, but it doesn't replace authenticity, transparency, honesty, and these core values that we as humans bring to the table. So I want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on authenticity, why it's important, and how that is also, not just in the work that you do as a marketer, but also in your personal value system, and how that's led you to different opportunities, including the one that you just embarked upon.
For me, I think authenticity is critical, like more critical than I maybe thought even 5 years ago. And with everything developing in the world, with technology and everything, I think it's more important than ever. I'm not the anti-AI or, technology guy. I just think that authenticity when it comes to yourself as a leader, but also in marketing is going to be critical for success going forward. And what I mean with that is that if, first of all, I'm not true to myself and how I behave, how I act, or I feel I can be my real self, well, then it's going to be really strugglesome to lead others to be and their self. So I think it falls back to yourself always first. But then in the world of AI and, anyone can write anything, anyone can create any image, I think people will very easily spot if something is for real or not for real. I think that will shine through. And I think that's where we need to find that very fine line of what is it that I can do that is technology driven, and where do I need to put my own authenticity and my own mind and thought into it for it to feel true and genuine in the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm. And what has led you to these different endeavors that you've embarked upon? You talked about your pivot during the pandemic. You talked about your pivot banking to agency to wanting to build yourself, different organizations. And now you've made a pivot from aviation into construction safety.
Yeah, I think that one is a big one. And I think, to be honest, for me personally, there is a faith and in the background that always steers my kind of guidance to what I do, where I do it, and how I do it. And it is my belief in God that has helped me throughout my whole life and navigate everything. And it's not something that, I bring to the front of the table and talk about every day, but it is very personal and a guide for me to steer me. And I think that's another way for me also to put the word authenticity into practice.
Yeah.
It is something that is about what I feel, on the inside that is not really explainable, but that, it's some call it gut feeling, some call it, a calling. But I think there is a sense of guiding you through life and allowing you to make decisions. And if you tune into that, you can really find when you should do and shouldn't do things. At least for me, that's been the case. So that's been my core. And I talked to my family, my wife. Now, when I made this decision, we have a house, we have a kid. We actually have a kid on the way, so a second
congratulations.
kid. And it's a big step to go from a big, global company to a small startup in terms of so many things on the financial. But I had to go on my gut feeling of where I need to be at the moment to fulfill my own life, but also to fulfill what I believe is the right time for this season, or my calling, or how I want to see my life and the season I'm in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have to say the SafeSite website is beautiful. I know you just came on, so I don't know if you had much input into that, but it's not what I would expect from a typical construction app or a company that works with construction safety. And that makes it so much more compelling because I really think the humanity in it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have a super awesome designer that's been part of the process before I came aboard. I have nothing to thank for the current visuals, unfortunately, I would say, because I think there is some really great stuff there. But I think that's what also made me want to jump aboard, because there is passion here for people first app to help people be secure when they work in construction sites. And I think that was something that captured to be very spiritual, my spirit, and I felt like, okay, cool, I can actually be part of putting my knowledge and stuff into something that matters for people's lives. So it's not a slogan, but what we say is like peace at work, peace at home. And what that means is that if people at home feel that there is security measures at construction sites, well, then there will be peace at home, right? They know that there is measures to keep people safe when they're working in very dangerous environments, so that there is less risk for accident that lead to people dying. So I think for me, that kind of connected to my kind of people first mentality, and thinking, cool, I've used my tech experience, I can use my longevity marketing experience and put that into something that keeps people safe every day.
Yeah.
And people work at construction sites across the whole world. So even if we're starting in Europe and the Nordics, I think you'll hopefully soon see our services across the globe.
Well, I was just going to say my ex-husband worked in refractory for, oil and gas. And so that's a very specialized industry. It's, for those for listening who don't know, it's the inside linings of like high pressure brick that keep things insulated. So it keeps gases, oils, other liquids, even nuclear from getting out and creating even more danger for people. But it's not easy work. And, we'd hear about these construction sites and, oh, this other team did this and this is what happened and it was really dangerous. And so it's something that's really needed because these roles are not going away. Construction is not going to be replaced. Maybe certain parts can be helped and amplified with AI, but it's not going to be replaced. You still need the humans.
So, absolutely. For a long time, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of triggered my kind of excitement to actually jump into this and jump aboard and utilize my knowledge. It's not only people first in terms of the team we're building, but it's people first in terms of keeping people safe on our globe, which I think is super cool. So yeah, it was a decision made out of the spear thought of making the world a better place.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But I also want to point out that I see this people first spirit and this guiding spirit in your board work as well. Can you talk a little bit about what you do as a board member for organizations? Because I do think there's such a great tie-in to seeing you as the whole person who you're bringing all of your belief system to everything you do.
Well, 100%. And I think that's what triggered me to actually jump aboard and be a volunteer board member for. It's one of the largest local kind of NGOs in Gothenburg, Sweden, so on the West Coast. And they have 30 plus different types of, social programs to help people that are marginalized in our society. From, people that have addicts of different kinds, or that are migrants and don't have a home, or that have been abused in their homes, people that don't have enough money to feed their kids, across the board. And in so many different, they run several schools in very tough areas of the city. And I just felt like here I can do a difference on a level that I haven't done in my job. And it's not so much about me. I can put my knowledge and experience into play, hopefully, and help out in that capacity. And it also is volunteering on a level where I can give the most of who I am, what I've learned in the last years. But I also found out I've been there 1 year and I just agreed to 2 more years. And I realized that probably the person learning the most is me. Because I also get an insight and understanding of, our society and how people have it in our city, and realizing a lot of things and learning a lot of things. And I think that has been, for me, the greatest learning for the first year. And I hope I can continue to contribute in different ways. But again, it falls back to, okay, what do I want my life to look like when I'm not here anymore? Like, what do I want people to remember me for?
Yes.
And I think
your legacy.
The legacy, exactly. And I think the legacy should be something that I can feel comfortable with now. And I can't start doing that when I'm 60. I have to start today, tomorrow, and every day, and make sure that every part of life connects to that, because otherwise it's not authentic, right? If I'm very much, outgoing and giving in one area and not another, well, what's the real me, right? So, and it's hard. Like, we're all struggling with that, but I just want to give to my society locally and also do things that makes a difference generally.
Yeah, fantastic. Going back to the world of work, you've had ups and downs, as we all have, right? We've all had times when we weren't satisfied with the work we put out. I don't like to call them failures because they're things that we've learned. So can you talk about a time when you were using your skill set, but you said, oh, this is really not hitting my own KPIs, my targets, my goals? Is there a marketing campaign that didn't hit the mark and that you had to take lessons from and reconceive?
I think, to be honest, in the last 5-7 years, I think the biggest things that has made that failure is not being authentic to the way I want to lead and the way I want to kind of be a team member, be a leader. I think when I haven't had the time for that because I felt swamped with like tasks, duties, things to do, that's when I have been on the failing track. And I think that results in KPIs, like we talked about before, that results in the team and the people around you not being able to perform on their capacity. And I think that's my latest and longest learning. So entering into this new job now, I really am, focused on how do I keep myself in check to be the person I need to be a good leader that is people first. And how do I ensure, that I don't fill my time with too much things, so I don't have time to be also the person and prepare for that. So in one-on-ones or in conversation with people, how do I make sure that I don't only focus on tasks and things to be done and the outcome and being so driven to that? Because my belief system is that if I do the good things surrounded around people first and making sure people are comfortable, well, then the KPIs and the metrics and the targets will also hit themselves, because it's one world. It's not two different things. So I think I felt like this was a very bad answer to your question, but I think the connection here is that the soft values and the hard values need to work together. And if I'm not in the space where I can do that, or where I allow myself to do that, that's when I've been failing. And also that's when I've been succeeding. So long answer to a short question.
No, but I completely understand what you're saying, because I've had times, whether it's in volunteer leadership or the world of work, when I haven't felt that I was being my authentic self, or I did something because I admired somebody and I was emulating their perspective, the way that they would handle a situation. And as soon as I did it, I went, oh, this was a mistake, because now I'm not treating the other people the way that I would want to be treated, or the way that I would want them to feel appreciated. Now, instead, acting as somebody else. So I completely relate to that. And I think that is when I'm not bringing my authentic self to things, then that's when I'm not doing a good job myself. And that's when I'm not reaching my goals, and I'm being a disappointment, not just to myself, but to others, as you've said.
I agree with that. So true. And I think what we talked about before with, having people in your life that help you to your kind of thoughts. And I think that's very easy. If I have only one or two people that, I have as guides in my career and my life, it's a risk that we emulate exactly, behavior because we look up to them or they're great in how they do it. But actually, I can't emulate them. I can't be them. I can't do it how they did it because their journey is different than mine. So I think you're completely right. And if we stop copying and trying to copy others and be our authentic self, we can actually be more successful, and trust that gut feeling and that, inner self that guides you on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we live in this time when artificial intelligence is a big topic of discussion, particularly generative AI. I'm hearing from different founders that they are now, something that we were talking about maybe 6 months ago was, if you don't know AI, or even a year and a half ago, you're not going to lose your job. But if you are the person who doesn't know AI, will probably lose your job because you'll be replaced by somebody who does. So I wanted to ask about that. Are you seeing that in the various organizations that you work within, or the trends in Sweden as well?
I think Sweden is a very tech forward company. We're a small country in the context of the global world, where we have fewer people in our country than so I think we're very quick to adapt to technology. We have a lot of tech that comes from Sweden. So I think, yes, definitely. And I think it's on everyone's lips. It's what everyone talks about. And I get tired of it. Not that you raised the question now, but I get tired when people steer everything around AI, because it's not only about AI. It's about AI in the context of everything else, which, we're talking about authenticity, we're talking about business, we're talking about yourself. And I think that's where that comes in. And I really see those trends. I was actually at a network with marketeers just a few weeks ago in round tables, and we talked about this. And I said, I probably think that 40-50% of jobs may be gone in a few years, because we can replace certain tasks and things with AI and be more effective. Yeah. But I think the human brain and our kind of way to input into things will still be needed for a long time. Think about it. I heard another podcast talking about this, and they were talking about when the calculator was invented, mathematicians, they knew how to calculate. The only thing that happened with the calculator was that they were faster. They didn't have to sit and write it on paper. They could do it on the calculator. It made them faster, but they still needed to know how to calculate. Yeah. They couldn't just from thin air solve complex mathematical problems just because they had a calculator. And I think it's the same with AI today. We will need to know and understand how to use that as a tool for whatever we do. And it's given to us as a great asset to help us be more efficient, to do things differently. But if we don't know how to do something, AI won't solve it for us. It could give us guides and directions, but at least for now. Maybe you'll come back to me in 10 years and prove me wrong, but that's what I believe right now, at least.
Yeah. And that's something, because I am an AI first strategist, but that doesn't mean that I prioritize AI over everything else. That means AI needs to be integrated into your business systems, but you still have a very people-centered organization, because we are bringing the creativity, the strategy, the, je ne sais quoi, that we don't get out of the tools that we're using, implementing into our business practices.
Yeah. I've been working on, just as a fun story, I've been working on a children's book for a while. And I just realized a week and a half ago that if I just take my script into AI, and I also have some, theories on how to learn and how to develop as a kid. And if I connect my book with those theories and I put them into AI, and I ask some questions around is this story, well built out for kids to learn stuff from this book? Is the story written in a way that fits this age gap based on these theories? And I got some really, really good insights that will help me to pivot the book. The story is still mine. Yeah. It's a unique story that I've created, but how I execute that will just be so much more beneficial for the outcome of the book. And I don't think it's cheating, because it's making sure that you put your best foot forward and get the knowledge from different people to deliver the best possible product.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great example of a use case. It's not about creating the thoughts for us. It's about taking all of our thoughts and ideas and putting them in a different order that makes maybe a little more sense, or it's more cohesive.
Yeah. I mean, people will probably tell us but we have AI now writing country songs that are super fun and people listen to them. Sure. And that may happen. But I think I believe that we're humans, we're here of a reason, we're here of a purpose. and we're here to, add to the world. So even if AI and generative intelligence can help us, the world wasn't created for AI to take over. The world was created for us humans to, be in the center of that somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So that takes me back to marketing and thinking about what tools, what resources we need in terms of budget, tech, talent to create a successful team, because we also know that there are a lot of things going on in the world with the economy. I mean, obviously, I'm in the United States, so there's a whole layer of topics
Things
that we
going
don't
on.
need to discuss, but that are really disheartening to people who are going into business or try to keep your business afloat. So what recommendations do you make for the priorities? Because to me, of course, you have to have marketing, because if you don't have marketing, you don't have you're not getting your message out. You're not getting information about your brand and product out. So you're not going to have as many sales, no matter what else is going on politically, economically. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your perspective on how do you prioritize, and what are some ways people can make small tweaks, perhaps?
Yeah, I think as a marketeer, if you're in a company, small or big, I think the first thing you need to do is start testing AI and not being like putting that to the side as a thing to do on the bucket list later on when you have time. Explore it and use it and try it on a kind of personal level. I think my worry from a corporate level or company level is that we may have leaders and people leading companies that don't really understand what we just talked about, the mix of technology and people and how that works together to make something work. And I see a risk, especially with marketing as a function, that people would say in leadership roles in companies like, well, we can use AI, we don't need marketing anymore, and just cut it because it's an easy mindset to think that. And I, in one sense, agree with that. Yes, you can solve a lot of things with AI and technology that will simplify, speed up things. But on the other hand, you still need people. So it is a combination of the two that will be the success, I think. And I think I'm worried about businesses not understanding that and making very rash decisions, cutting full departments just because there is now technology that can replace it. And yes, they can, but the longevity risks with that is I think too big, because you don't really know how your brand will be amplified in the next 5 years if you move into that direction, because you will lose a lot of the human touch of things that AI needs to be trained on. So I think it's like, start using it, enable teams to use it, and find ways to be more effective. So you can spend more money on budgets for ads, or, you can reallocate money for other things in the business if it's hard times. But don't cut people, but allow technology to be at the forefront in the company so people can use them and be effective.
Yeah.
And train people.
Yeah.
Allow people to be trained.
Amazing. What is one thing that you would tell to not just a company or brand? I mean, we talked about get to know AI tools, but to somebody who's just entering a marketing career. Is there something else they should be watching out for? Is there an approach they should take? Obviously, learning AI tools is one, but other ways that will help them gain an edge in this world.
I think in this time and age, what I need to work hard on continuously doing is being explorative and not fall into old patterns. If you're new in marketing and you're just out of school, don't just take your school theories and put them into practice, but be explorative, test things, be brave, and think outside the box. If you get an idea, run with that for a second and see where it takes you before you shut it down, even if people around you shut it down. I was actually talking in a marketing or like a communication team the other night, and I told them, like, even if your boss or your leader tells you that this is not something we can do right now, explore it for a second and put together a proof of concept and show what your thought is, instead of just like shutting down just because the idea wasn't received good in the first second. Because I think that's really where we can start, doing things differently, learning things. And I think we all have something to bring to the table. So just put that foot forward and don't limit yourself based on what others think or say.
Fantastic. Samuel, I always ask my guests, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, just words of wisdom, family motto, words of wisdom that continue to keep you living in this light and this space where you are people first, but you're really centered and grounded in strategy, creativity, and making sure that you're bringing all of this goodness to the world?
I think there's two things that is like a mantra that I try to carry with me. One thing is change is the only thing constant. I don't know where I've heard it, but it is the only thing constant. So it's better to just embrace that and just follow the flow with change, even though it may be hard, it may be devastating sometimes. Follow the flow with that. And the second is to have faith. Have faith in yourself, have faith in people, and have faith in the process sometimes. And have faith in that even if maybe the people around you at the second aren't the best, there is other people out there that you will find and meet if you are open, that will help you and guide you in the journey you're on.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation. And I love that the timing, and I say this a lot, so if you've listened to the episodes, you'll have heard me say this, but the timing is always perfect, particularly with the fact that when we originally were speaking, we were talking about your previous company and you just switched roles. And now we get to talk about the authenticity of yourself in going to a new role and why you chose to, and what this organization is going to do to create safety for so many people and so many important jobs.
Yeah, thank you so much. And what I love with your podcast, and when I was excited that you wanted me on, was like, because your podcasts are always so explorative and they're around the topic, but they're also, giving a bigger picture of that person that you're talking to and allowing that kind of conversation to be the guide. So I've listened to a lot of your episodes and I appreciate that with your podcast. So for me, it was such a joy to be part of it, even though it took some time for us to find the time to be together. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And keep on doing this podcast because it adds a flavor to things and perspectives that is really helpful.
Well, thank you. That's my goal. So I'm really happy to hear you say that and that you are feeling that and receiving that. So, and if it's okay with you, I'll put your LinkedIn and your new organization links in the show notes.
Absolutely.
I want to reach out to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annika.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. I'll be back again with another amazing guest very shortly. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.